Good afternoon, everyone. Today's webinar is entitled Top Microsoft Tools for Office 365 and More, and we are here with CDH and New Horizons. If you want to point to the next slide. In case you aren't familiar with New Horizons, we are a worldwide training provider, and we are partnered with Microsoft, Cisco, PMI, and ITIL, just to name a few. We also have a large international network and have hundreds of course offerings. And with that said, I'm handing it over to Megan and Dean from CDH.
Thank you very much. So this is Megan Testani with CDH. Just a quick overview on who CDH is. We are a Michigan-based company founded in 1990. We are headquartered in Grand Rapids and in Detroit, and we're focused on solving the toughest business challenges with user-centric technology solutions. From IT strategy and custom development to cloud infrastructure, content management, and security, we produce results with user-first technology solutions delivered by creative, disciplined, and honest professionals. I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Dean Bostedor. He's a consultant here with CDH, specializing in enterprise architecture, cloud computing, enterprise security, as well as secure identity management. Dean, take it away.
Thanks, Megan. Hello, everyone. As Megan said, today we're going to be talking about Office 365 security and security for the productive enterprise in a mobile-first, cloud-first world. More specifically, we'll be talking about Microsoft Enterprise Mobility Plus Security, or EMS. So on the agenda, we're going to be talking about digital transformation in the workplace, Microsoft EMS, protection at the front door using identity management, protecting data anywhere it goes, and how to detect and remediate attacks in the environment. So a little some facts here. 41% of employees say mobile business apps change how they work. And what that means is users are now mobile. They're working on personal devices. They're accessing things in the cloud. They've got access to work resources when they're not at work. So it's changed the way that they work. A couple other tidbits here is 85% of organizations keep sensitive information in the cloud. So that means data is no longer just kept on premises on a server or in a database. Information is out there in the cloud. It's either in Salesforce or Azure or other platforms. 80% of employees use non-approved software as a service apps for work. So translated, that means that, as users are using their, home devices or personal devices, or they're working remotely, they have more control over the devices that they're using, and they're installing non-approved apps, or they're signing up for services out there on the cloud. And maybe they're emailing customers or clients using their personal email accounts, or uploading documents to their personal Dropboxes, things of that nature. So these are non-approved apps. And so historically, IT has been able to sort of manage security within a perimeter. So they've had identity managed on-prem using Active Directory servers. The devices that users use were workstations, company sanctioned phones, thin clients, things of that nature, all on premises. The applications were installed on the workstations or on the servers that were on premises. And of course, the data lived on premises on servers. So, it was pretty straightforward. You just build a big wall around all this stuff, and you keep the bad guys out and keep your data within. And you just keep fortifying that wall, and that was kind of the way forward. So presently, though, it's gotten a lot more complex. So you still have your on-premises environment, but now you have all this other stuff out there that you have to deal with as an IT security professional. So you have Salesforce, Box, ServiceNow, users that are, not even in your environment, and they're accessing data. Your files are floating around out there. So it's changed quite a bit. And in the past, it's been kind of security or productivity. That's the way that people have been dealing with it. So it's like, okay, all this stuff is out there, but we need to be secure. So we're going to lock you down and make it so that you can't work from home, or you can't use personal devices, or you can't do this. And it's shutting off all these things and turning off productivity and creating shadow IT. So, and on the flip side, you could be extremely productive and just enable users to do whatever they want. Well, that's not very secure. So it's been kind of a balance in the past. Microsoft's approach to this is that you can have secure productivity. So you can have the best of both worlds. You can be productive and secure. And if you go out in the marketplace and try and find solutions for security in the cloud and on premises, it's extremely confusing. It's a hodgepodge. You get overlap in the products. So you might get a on premises malware detection software. And over time, it may get some more functionality that overlaps with something else. So now you've got two different products that are sort of doing the same thing, but some are a little bit better than others. And it gets confusing. It gets to be a headache and a burden for IT to keep up to date on all the various changes. So to simplify this, Microsoft is taking some of these things and just sort of creating a platform where you can have all of these stuffs in all of this stuff in some tiers. So, and they want you to protect at the front door, protect your data wherever it goes, and detect and remediate attacks. So, and this is all within the EMS platform. And so what this is it's your identity management using Azure AD. So your identities are in the cloud. Your mobile device management are cloud-based. Your information is cloud-based, and you can protect rules about that, and then you can detect threats out there. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the identity portion of this and protect at the front door. Here's a little tidbit. 81% of hacking breaches leverage stolen or weak passwords. So these are, there's the dark web out there. You can go out there and you can find hacker dump sites where there's credentials, and you can try these credentials and try passwords. Even if you just get a username, you can figure out where that domain is and try logging into some various different cloud platforms and using some easily guessed passwords. People use, it's, even if you have people changing their passwords, they try and kind of game the system by using like seasons in the year or stuff like that. They're very easily guessed. And so, yeah, a lot of these breaches happen because of that sort of thing. So to be able to protect against this, Microsoft's helping you answer some questions that you need to know here, which is who's accessing it, what's their role, is the account already compromised, where is the user based, where are they signing in from, are they signing in from a place where they're not based generally, is the IP anonymous, what app is being accessed, and what's the business impact of them accessing that app, is the device healthy, is it managed by you, has it been in a botnet attack? What data are they trying to access, and is the data classified, or do you even want them to be accessing it if they're off premises? And so, Microsoft's digital crimes unit is able to work with their cyber defense operations center and look at all the various Microsoft logins across, personal live accounts or not, I guess they're called Microsoft accounts now. Skype, OneDrive, Xbox even, Azure, EMS, Azure Active Directory. So they're able to look at all these different logins and create some intelligence around it. And they're processing 10 terabytes a day. That's a ton of data. And they've developed sort of a if-then kind of thing. So if you have a privileged user, if the credentials are found in public, or if it's anonymous, or if it has certain risks, if it's medium, low, or high risk, then you can create a policy to allow access or require MFA or forced password reset, limit or deny access. So it's pretty straightforward. And in this model, it's called conditional access. An example of this is their privileged identity management, where you can discover, restrict, and monitor your privileged identities. So in this example, you have a domain user, and maybe it's an IT user that needs to do things where global admin is required. So they can elevate themselves as global admin for a period of time, kind of do what they need to do, and after a specified interval, they're demoted back to a regular domain user. And you can create some reporting around this, so you can see what that user did while they were global admin, and create some access reviews. So that's an example of one of those conditional accesses. Here's another one that's more user-ish. So you got a user who's a sales account rep. They're logging in from a mobile device, and the mobile device is fully patched, it's fully managed. They're based out of London, they're logging in from London, and they logged in 5 hours ago, so not a big deal. Microsoft looks at that, and it's going to give it an access risk of low. So maybe because it's low and it meets all these conditions, you want to go ahead and let them put their expenses in. Here's another example. It's a VP of marketing. He's logging in from a mobile device. He's based in London. He's logging in from London. He's fully patched and managed, but he's part of an executive users group. So you know that group has access to classified high business impact data. So Microsoft will look at that and say, well, it's low. We don't know what executive users really needs, but you can look at that and say, well, we're going to require MFA for this user to be able to get to that data. And yet another example is, that same account rep is based in London and logging in, or usually uses a mobile device. But this time around, he's trying to log in from a client browser from Asia and using an anonymous IP address. So Microsoft is going to go ahead and flag this as high. You can review that and say, yeah, it is high. We're going to block access. And further, we're going to make them change their password. They're not going to get to that app. So we're going to look at this demo real quick. It kind of covers some of the things we've talked about, and then we'll return to talk about Azure Information Protection.
Cybersecurity remains a top challenge for today's organizations. While it's essential to give users mobile access to company data, these increasingly complex interactions generate new blind spots for IT. Cybersecurity attacks are getting more sophisticated, and they can have a significant impact on business. Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security provides a holistic and innovative approach to security. It addresses sophisticated attacks with comprehensive controls, deep visibility, unique intelligence, and advanced detection and response. Identity-driven security starts with identity protection capabilities to safeguard access to resources at the front door. Before apps and data can be accessed, users, devices, and locations must be trusted. Azure Active Directory can make that possible by placing one secure identity at the center of your business. Azure AD leverages billions of signals to provide advanced identity protection for all your users and administrators. It protects you at the front door with location, device, and risk-based conditional access policies, multi-factor authentication, and security audit reports and alerts. Often, attackers target privileged accounts to access critical company data, or they seek idle admin accounts that create a known vulnerability. Azure Active Directory Privileged Identity Management helps you manage and protect these accounts by discovering, restricting, and monitoring privileged identities and their access to resources. It also helps you enforce administrative access for an exact period of time and manage built-in Azure AD organizational roles. Part of Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security, these innovative security technologies help protect your users, devices, apps, and data, both on-premises and in the cloud.
All right, so let's move into the next tier here, which is protect your data anywhere. So this is another part of EMS. Another fact, 58% of workers have accidentally shared sensitive data to the wrong person. So think about this for a minute. That means 1 out of every 2 people that have access to sensitive data have actually shared it to the wrong person. And that doesn't mean just like, HIPAA information. It could just be financial information about the company that maybe is you don't want people out there and it's sensitive information. So this was kind of surprising to me, but yeah, it's scary as well. So how much control do you have over that data? So on premises, you may have full control. Again, you build up the wall and you can keep the bad guys out and keep your data within. But of course, people are out there working in the wild now. So there's certain apps out there that maybe you have some control over, and some of that stuff is completely out of your control. So how do you get all this stuff completely under your control once again? Well, Microsoft helps you sort of answer some of these questions, which is how do I protect corporate files on mobile devices? How do I discover and protect data in software as a service apps? How do I protect the data that's shared externally? And how do I protect sensitive data on premises and that's out in the cloud? So you need to get visibility of the apps that they're using. You need to protect the devices that they're using. And this is the coolest part, I think, which is classification and labeling and protection of the sensitive data that's on premises and out in the cloud. We'll talk more about this. So classification and labeling, that's classifying the documents and data that's sensitive and adding labels. So what you're able to do here is create some labels that make sense for your environment. And there's a client add-in that you can download for Azure Information Protection, or AIP, that integrates right into Office. So as they're looking or creating documents, they can actually tag the documents right there. And then once those documents are tagged, you can create policies around them. And then also you can set it up so that it's automatically detecting document types based on like regular expressions or other patterns that it detects. And then you can protect those tagged documents. You can create visual markings or watermarks on the document so that as the users are looking at those, they know, hey, this is a high impact document, so I don't need to share this out, or they'll think twice about doing something like that. You can encrypt that stuff as well. And then monitoring, you can track these documents to see what's happening with it. So if you have a classified document and you have a policy where users have to log in to be able to view that, and then you've got that document out in the wild and somebody's trying to access it from Asia, for example, you can see that somebody's trying to access it and deny them access. And then to gain visibility over those apps, there's cloud discovery. So you can actually discover that cloud apps using your organization and get a risk assessment. So Microsoft has this portal page basically where there's tons of cloud apps in there, and they have these risk assessment, and like it's like a red, green, yellow kind of thing where you can look at it, and based on if they use encryption or their authentication types, things like that, what kind of data they're trying to access, if you install it on their phone, Microsoft will rate that for you, so you can start to determine which ones are risky, which ones are relatively safe, and things of that nature. Then you can get visibility. Again, you can see where that data is traveling and investigate all the activities, files, and accounts. So maybe it's the same user account that's trying to access a file. That gives you an indication that maybe that account's vulnerable. And then control. You can protect the sensitive data that's stored out there using policies. So here's kind of how that works. You got a user. They've got access to a document. The document's been tagged as internal, and then they try to upload it to a public share. Well, the Cloud App Security is going to move it to a quarantine and then restrict the document so that only the owner can do it. And then on the back end, it's also going to notify the admin about that activity. So pretty cool. Before, if you had a document that gets shared out there, it's just it's there. And then maybe you find out about it, some other way. But this way, it's actually working behind the scenes, quarantining it, and then notifying you about it. And then there's within the apps themselves, there's granular control. So with the Office apps, for example, if you take Outlook and somebody installs it on their phone and they've got their Gmail on there and a couple other personal mail accounts, and then they add their work mail to that, you can actually control just that work account or remove it. You don't have to wipe their entire app. And you can restrict downloading and printing, things like that using Intune. You can require them to use pins or block jailbroken devices, restrict URLs. All of those controls that people have always kind of had on premises, those are going to be available out in the cloud now. So if you want to protect data, you do something like this. User adds their business, their OneDrive for Business app on there, and now they've got all their OneDrive files available to them on their device. Well, an Intune policy can be configured so that they can't copy and paste it out of there or save it somewhere else. And to access it, they need a PIN on their phone, and they need to encrypt their storage so that if their device is stolen, somebody can't just access the data that's been cached onto that phone. So then user can edit and store it in OneDrive for Business and work on it. But if they go and try and save it to maybe a personal drive or something like that, they're not allowed. But they can, look at it and save it to OneDrive for Business because that's one of your allowed apps. Another quick demo here, guys, and then we'll move into the actual malware protection.
Organizations that have moved to the cloud or mobile environments often wonder how to protect data. Rather than restricting users, you can actually gain visibility and control and keep your corporate data safe with Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security. With Microsoft Cloud App Security, you can discover all the cloud apps in your environment, identify users and usage, and get a risk score for each app. You can then decide if you'd like your users to access these apps. Cloud App Security not only provides visibility, but also data control and threat protection. You can shape your cloud environment by setting policies and enforce them immediately on cloud apps, whether from Microsoft or third parties. Whenever there's an anomaly, you'll get an alert. What about preventing data loss from mobile apps? With Microsoft Intune, you can give employees access to corporate apps, data, and resources from virtually anywhere on almost any device. With an unparalleled ability to protect Office and other mobile apps, it's easier than ever to prevent data loss on iOS, Android, and Windows devices without affecting end-user experiences or even requiring device enrollment. Azure Information Protection provides additional security through persistent data protection, ensuring your data is always protected, regardless of where it's stored or with whom it's shared. You can classify, label, and protect files, share them securely, track their usage, and even revoke access if necessary. Microsoft gives you a comprehensive solution to safeguard your corporate data with deeper visibility, stronger controls, and better enforcement.
All right, so the next piece of this is detect and remediate attacks. Another fact, 91% of cyber attacks and the resulting data breach begin with a spear phishing email. So that's not surprising. Generally a user gets an email and it looks just like a legit email. Maybe it even comes from a contact that they know. And it's going to take them somewhere to go put in credentials, maybe a DocuSign. One that I've seen recently is a suspicious activity on your account email that appears to come from Microsoft. You click the link, it takes you to something that appears to be the Office 365 portal. And I mean, it's uncanny how similar they are. The only way you can really tell, of course, is looking at the sender and looking at the URL, and then finding out it's just like a Google app out there and not the actual Microsoft portal. So yeah, this is not surprising. So how quickly are you able to detect attacks? Again, some questions that Microsoft helps you answer here are, how do I detect compromised credentials? How do I detect attackers moving laterally in my environment? How do I detect past the hash, past the ticket type attacks? Aren't rules-based security solutions enough? Those are like thumbprint type malware definitions. And how can I remediate in real time or automatically? Well, Microsoft uses the intelligent security graph, and here's some examples of just how much data Microsoft can take in using their own platform. So they analyze 200 billion emails. They have enterprise security for 90% of the Fortune 500 companies. They're scanning 1.2 billion devices each month. So that's, and again, this isn't just like corporate devices. These are just devices out there running Windows, including like Xbox and things like that. They're scanning web pages. They're at 750 million Azure user account logins. And then they're sharing threat data from partners and law enforcement. So they've got a huge amount of data that they can consume. And as soon as they get an update for any one of these things, they update it in real time, and all of the customers are covered. They also use behavioral analytics to detect and prevent data breaches. So they're looking at identity-based attacks and threat detection in Azure. Then they look at abnormal behavior and advanced threat detection on premises. And then they look at strange activity with cloud apps. So they're able to sort of detect and prevent breaches using behavioral analytics in that way. And this is some more examples of that, are like credit card companies looking at cardholders' behavior and spending patterns. So, you know, maybe you have a credit card holder and he's spending money over on this side of the world, and then, you know, 3 hours later, he's over on the other side of the world. Credit card companies know this is suspicious activity, and they're not going to approve that until they verify this, which they probably are not going to be able to verify that that user is doing that, because he's probably not actually doing that. So in a similar regard, this is what Microsoft's doing with logins. It's looking at your logins and other entities and multiple data sources and mapping out sort of profiles, and then using machine learning to take all of that data and use algorithms to figure out what's normal, what's not normal. And then from that, it's able to detect advanced types of attacks. So let's look at kind of an attack timeline. You know, you get a phishing attack, the user gets it, they click it, or, you know, they click a link that takes them to a website, their computer gets infected. Either way, the attacker now can get to their computer or get to their account. So the account's compromised, the attacker can move around within the environment, and that's on-prem or cloud, you know, and then they can get access to a privileged account and then attack sensitive data. So again, you know, here's the cloud. So how do we shorten that? Well, with Microsoft, it's monitoring, you know, all sorts of parts of this. So in exchange, it's going to detect that there's a phishing attack because maybe it's seen that attack before, you know, and it's going to update the security graph with that. Or it's going to look at your profile behavior and say this user shouldn't be logging in from here, you know, so let's send out an alert and stop that from happening. Or, you know, lateral movement attacks. It knows about you know, those types of attacks, or account impersonation. And so how it's doing this behavioral analytics is, again, it's analyzing the traffic and the identity traffic specifically, and it's just sort of taking in all that information, and then it's with that information it's learning. So it's profiling your users and other entities in the network and updating the security graph and using updates from the security graph, and then it's going to detect. So once it's detected, it can send out alerts and it can automatically remediate issues. It's the last part, and then I was going to go into sort of a real-time demo.
140 plus days. That's the average time attackers reside within your network until they're found. These breaches cost your business, impacting brand value, data security, and competitive edge, not to mention legal and remediation expenses. Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security helps you detect attacks before they cause damage, both on-premises and in the cloud, with holistic and innovative security technologies. Our solution helps you take immediate action and streamline recovery. On-premises, Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics, or ATA, pinpoints breaches and identifies attackers using innovative behavioral analytics and anomaly detection technologies. ATA employs machine learning and user and entity behavioral analytics to find advanced persistent threats. It also detects suspicious activities and known malicious attacks used by cybercriminals. For cloud apps, Cloud App Security identifies high-risk usage and security incidents, detects abnormal user behavior, and prevents threats. On an identity level in the cloud, Azure Active Directory Premium offers advanced security reports, audits, and alerts. Identity protection calculates the risk level for every user and sign-in attempt, so risk-based conditional access rules can be applied to protect against suspicious logins. All of our security solutions, anomaly detection, and risk scoring are enhanced with Microsoft Intelligent Security Graph. Microsoft's unmatched threat intelligence, driven by trillions of signals from billions of sources and security research data. With advanced machine learning techniques and massive amounts of data sets in the cloud, Microsoft Enterprise Mobility and Security constantly evolves to arm you with innovative defenses that help you protect, detect, and respond to cybersecurity attacks.
All right, so this is just a graph kind of showing the products here that you get with EMS. You get Intune, which are your mobile device platform. You can make sure those are compliant and secure. Azure Active Directory, That's where you are going to incorporate your conditional access that works with Intune to make sure that the devices are good and your user accounts are good before they access any of that data. And then cloud app security, that's a feature where it goes out and detects third-party cloud apps and will start classifying those and giving you threat vectors on those. And then Azure Information Protection is your document classification, labeling, protecting, and then Microsoft Advanced Threat Analytics are it's the data breach part of that. So here's sort of the generalized terminology. So identity and access management, mobile device app management, information protection, threat protection, and then the products underneath that. And you can see there's a little bit of overlap there between the products and sort of the general terms. So this is just a visual of that, so Intune is going to sort of fall into the identity management space, whereas like AIP, that's going to be your mobile device app management and also information protection and so on. So before we go into questions, though, I did want to do a quick sort of real-time demo in my demo environment here. So I just kind of wanted to show the conditional access and how easy it is to sort of set up these rules. So I'm in my Azure AD here. This is where your users are going to be authenticating to if they're using any of like the Office 365 or Azure software. So or Exchange Online, SharePoint, things of that nature. All those identities are going to be here. So if you scroll down, you've got conditional access here. Let's make a new policy. Let's call this one SharePoint. So under assignments, and these panes, they all go like left to right. It's sort of like reading, left to right and then down. But yeah, let's look for, I don't know, certain directory roles. Let's do global admins. So maybe we want global admins. And which apps are we gonna want to protect here? Say SharePoint. Oops. And then here's your conditions. So sign in risk, high, medium, low, no risk. Let's do medium risk. And those are defined in TechNet. If you guys need the link, I can send you that. Device platforms, you can specify which devices. So maybe you don't want them to go on mobile. You only want desktop. I don't know why you'd want that for SharePoint, but there you go. Locations. In this locations area, you can do trusted locations, which are defined in another section. But so I'm not going to configure this part because I haven't defined those. And client apps, you can say which apps are allowed to access SharePoint Online here. So I'll just leave these default. And device state. Let's say compliant devices. There you go. Enable your policy and create it. What do I do here? Oh, did not do this part. Here's the thens. So again, if, then. So we're gonna require it to be compliant. We're gonna make them do multi-factor for SharePoint. I'm not gonna worry about session stuff. I just kind of wanted to do a basic one here. So there you go. Now you have a policy here, and then also you have the what if, where you can create scenarios there, and then say, okay, what happens if I pick this user using this app from this IP in this country on this device and so on? What happens if that scenario is true? And then it'll say whether or not they're denied or allowed or required to use MFA. So you would use this, I guess, if you have a lot of conditional access rules and you're just trying to figure out which rules are maybe breaking something, or if you just want to test something out, you can use that. So let me let's go back in the SharePoint deck. So any questions?
And as we put into the chat window, if you'd like to ask a question, feel free to do that through the questions tab. I'll give it a moment for any additional questions to come in. But for right now, if you wanted to flip over to one of our next steps on the next slide, I know that New Horizons has an Office 365 Tools for the Modern Workplace ebook that can be downloaded at nhls.com/ebooks. And then for anybody that might have questions for Dean or for CDH or anything on Office 365, anything on Azure, EMS, security related, we can flip over to the contact information for us over here at CDH. Next slide, Dean. There you go. That's our web address, email address, and phone number. And yes, the slides will be available after the presentation. Nice presentation. Thank you very much. We'll just give it one more minute to see if any additional questions come in. If there's any technical questions, we're more than happy to answer those as well. Okay. Well, with that, I would like to say thank you to Dean Bostedor from CDH, and thank you to New Horizons for hosting us for this webinar. If you have any additional questions after the fact, the presentation slides will be available, or you can reach out to us at sales@cdh.com, or feel free to give us a call at 248-546-1800. Yes, you will be able to get the video as well. That will be posted on both New Horizons YouTube channel as well as CDH's YouTube channel, as well as a link will be sent out to that. All right. Well, again, everybody have a great day, and we will talk to you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks.